So nuance seems like a new idea, a novel idea. It seems like nuance in the church has become really popular. Everybody's nuanced. You know, are you a PMO, physically in, mentally out? And then when you go and like do the temple recommend questions, you can like answer it, but like technically you're saying the right answer, but like in your heart you like know that it's like nuanced, right? I think if you're openly nuanced, like if you tell the person that like I can say those words, but like, are you a full tithe payer? Well, I consider myself a full tithe payer because I pay tithing in this kind of way. I feel like I'm square with God, you know. So yes, I'm a full tithe payer, but if I were not to openly declare like in what way I'm considering myself, because I know that they consider tithing much different than that. Like my understanding of the church's official stance on tithing is you pay 10% on your gross. Isn't that the big one? The net? I think gross. You pay 10% on your gross if you're like a really like devout, committed member. If you 100% trust God, you would pay, like you would just do what you're asked to do, you know, 10% on your gross. Like you just make sure to err on the side of caution. Why wouldn't you? God is good. Like he rewards you openly. Like, geez. So that's what I believe the bishop is understanding is, are you a full tithe payer? And so I want to make sure to have a clear conscience. If I'm nuanced, I might say yes, because I'm doing it in a different way though. I'm doing it in a way that may not be approved by the church. So I'm making that clear, you know. And if I'm in Sunday school, I'm also making it clear, like my position. And then so people will understand my answers and like it won't be deceptive, because if you're closed nuanced, you're being deceptive and your words could harm like people's testimony, or it's bearing false witness. You know, those rules of consciousness that are laid out in the Bible, those might be just universal consciousness rules of light and truth, of like, this is the way to live in peace on the land. If you want that goal, you know, what is your goal here? What are you doing? If you're not having a good time, like, what are you doing here? Why are you doing it? What are you doing here? Do you enjoy? Are you a sadist? You know, I've considered that. Like, for real, God could be a sadist. Like, that also would make sense when you look at the world and you think about the creator God. You're like, but it also makes sense that he's a sadist. And if he was a sadist narcissist, then of course he would be lying. Because that's what they do. You know, so it's like, wow, we could really have it all backwards. That's crazy. I mean, it's something to consider. It doesn't mean that it's true. It doesn't mean that anything, but it's something to consider. But then once those thoughts get in your head, can you ever get rid of them? You can't unfry an egg. So if you want to live in peace, though, if you look into your heart and you realize you're a being of light and you really just want to live in peace on the land, like you really don't like you really don't enjoy contention. You truly just want to live in peace on the land. Then the way to do that, perhaps, is the Bible rules, following the biblical prescription, specifically the Jesus prescription. But could you also attain that following the Quran? Could you also attain that following just the Talmud, or like the Old Testament Jewish part, but with plus more? Or do you follow the Bible, you know, the Old Testament, New Testament combo? Old Testament for reference, what New Testament stuff means. Old Testament, not necessarily for a lifestyle prescription, but just for cultural reference. New Testament for the lifestyle prescription? Or is Jesus just the Jesus stuff? So we can't say like the Bible, except you do need the Old Testament cultural reference maybe to understand the Jesus stuff. That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay. It helps. Gives you another point of reference. So taken together, like the Jesus stuff makes sense, but it's the Jesus stuff you want to care about. You know, that one rule clear in the heck back in is it Exodus, the Lot situation, or is that still in Genesis? There was that one time, you know, that the men of the town were going to do some horrible things to like somebody else's company, their guests, travelers. And like now we're like, see, that's why we do the things we do in our society, because God hates that stuff. It's like, well, like, are you taking the Old Testament as your lifestyle prescription, or is it just your cultural reference for the Jesus stuff? You know. Anyway, I'm looking down my nose at people farther down along the path. But I'm not really. When I say that mocking tone, I'm actually mocking myself. It's a joke on myself because of where I just was on the path. So I do it like a mocking tone, like to be like those bad people in the bad place. Not like me, the good person in the good place, above all you other, like, wrong people doing wrong things. You know, it's a form of sarcasm. And I don't understand why the church says you can't do sarcasm. But I kind of understand it now because, I don't know. You can always say, oh, I was just being sarcastic, you know. It can cause problems. Anyway, there's just a reason to do the Jesus stuff. There's a logical reason to do it. It's if your goal is peace, it really might be that the Jesus stuff is the way. It really might be there is only one way to live in peace on this land. Tom Robbins says there's a million ways to live in peace on this land, and only one way to live in disharmony or whatever. He didn't say that, but he said something. And humans have managed to stumble upon that one way. Well, I should get the direct quote. It's really good. Is that true, or is it there is one way for peace, and it's the Jesus stuff? The Jesus stuff I feel like is pretty good for peace, especially love your enemies, because most of the time your enemies are not your enemies. Though I stand in the midst of my enemies, verily the Lord layeth a table before me. How does that verse go? It's Psalm 23. And is the reason the Lord layeth a table before you in the midst of your enemies, is that because you love your enemies? Is that like loving your enemies gives you that consequence? Or was it something else? I kind of think the consequences of like God's gonna bless you with these things of like the Old Testament promises, and like the consequences of like, if you're God's chosen people, this is what you get. Oh, sometimes there's that kind of stuff in there, and I kind of think it's the consequences of your actions. And your actions take you on a path. Like, you're taking yourself on a path, picking and choosing your way in this world, where you go, what you do. You're taking literal, actual paths, and your actions are doing that. You are doing that with your acts, and then your choices, the things you're choosing, affect your actions and affect your path. And then what affects your choosing but your perception of what's going on here, that affects how you choose. And what you think is going on here is affected by logic and reason. It's just like the path has a good feel. If you're like, I'm just gonna love my enemies, I'm just gonna try that love stuff. Like hating your enemies, it's an emotional, it's like an energy toll. It's like an emotional toll. It takes a little out of you, you know. And doing like the lies, like maintaining all that huge structure of lies, like that takes it out of you. Even if it's just a lie about how your insides look. Like say you're logically just kind of a carnal person, but and you want to be carnal, but then on your outside you try to portray like piety because you want like the recognition, but it takes a huge amount of energy to maintain that facade. Like you could be spending the energy doing so many other things with your life, you know. Maintaining a facade takes energy. So when he says my yoke is easy and my burden is light, it's because the truth will make you free. Frees you. It frees up a little of that energy that you've been using to maintain the facade. And you're like, oh, the facade doesn't matter at all. Like I've been caring so much if that stucco is cracked, when really like it doesn't matter. Like that can be cracked for the rest of time and all eternity. And like this house is a sound structure. That's fine. And you know, the inside is a really comfortable place to live. Because you can, instead of focusing on just patching up that stucco all the time, now you can focus on how it feels inside, you know? Is there poop all over the floor? Are the dishes left unwashed? Like, what's going on in there? Like, are you keeping up on, like, the gardening? Are you weeding out things that, like, no longer, or that you realize, this is a weed growing up in the middle of a pumpkin patch. I thought this was a pumpkin. I'm getting rid of this, but if you're busy stuccoing the facade, maybe you don't have time. And then your garden's kind of overtaken with weeds. It's like, yeah, I know, but like I don't have time. So I'm like busy maintaining my appearances. And once you just stop, it's like, oh, well now I've just had like a spark for life. I have like an intense bubbling up of joy welled up inside my chest all the time. Well, that was a good move. Hey, you all should do that. That was an excellent move. That was something you should definitely do. I would definitely recommend this. Oh, and then I've already done that. Oh, have you now? Mr. Low Energy. Or like, oh, but I could never do that. Oh, but I could never do that. I have an ugly head. I can't shave my head because I have an ugly head. Do you know that's the point? Is that you go around. The point is to on purpose look ugly. The point is to on purpose realize that you are ugly and face that about yourself. Face those feelings. Like, why do you feel that way? You know? That's this huge stress and like a huge hatred of yourself. It's just horrible. So on purpose, face yourself. that's what I did. When I shaved my head, I was cool with it at first. I was really excited about it. It was like this new thing, right? This great idea I had just like inspired with. And it was like gonna fix my life. And it kind of did in a way. But like at first, the next day after I slept on it, it was the wrong decision. It was definitely like, oh no, I have made a bad decision, a really poor decision. And, but now I'm stuck with it. But like, it worked. Just stopping caring about like looking good. It frees up a lot of time. And so your actions, you can actually just work on like being good, cultivating a good feeling for the, Karen lady. Try to love your enemies. It's hard. It's scary. It's like, well, if I love them though, like I really could die, or this could have like catastrophic consequences though. And it's like, yeah, I think that it gives you kind of some comfort when then you read the scripture. It's like, well, he who shall lose his life for my sake shall find it, and he who shall save his life shall lose it. It's still a risk though. How much do you trust that scripture? And then it's like, well, does it apply here? Is this where it applies? Because if I love my enemy, like I will lose my life for sure. And it's like, does that apply? Does it apply to me? I don't know. That's a scary one. I kind of think it does. I kind of think it applies to all of us in all the little ways, but how far would you take it? How far would you go? Or would it be like, yeah, well, be realistic. This is real life. In real life, you have to survive. In real life, we're doing these real things. Like, you can't just be off in Looney Land all the time. You can't just go in La La Land. Like, you can't actually love your enemies, like, all the time. Like, do we believe Jesus or not? Do we believe the words of Jesus or not? Do we believe Jesus said the right thing? Well, like, I've been trying it, and I don't want to, I hate saying that because it's like, well, I'm doing it. You all are so low on the path, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. It's scary, though. I'm saying that gives me quite a bit of comfort, though. He shall lose his life. But then the Matthew 24 stuff is very scary, and it's like, oh no. But then there's the Luke 21 stuff that's like, don't worry. It's going to look real sketchy, but you won't lose one hair on your head. And I'm like, yeah, but like, what does that mean? Is this literally or figuratively? And like, where's the nuance here? Like, I feel like in the language of God, I feel like God is more direct. What is the language of God? Symbols? So then my husband would say stuff like that, super profound. Like, one time he was like, the language of God is like what you're witnessing, or like the symbolism of like the event. Or no, what was it? He said the language of God, or God speaks in situations. Something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was so profound. Like, how do you understand that? Like, God speaks in situations. I can't remember the words he used, though. It was something like that. Like, God speaks in circumstances. Something like that. And then there's that other, what would even the word be? Not philosophy, but theocracy. I don't know. Study of God. Religion. There is a word. It's theo something. Anyway. There is that, God speaks in symbols. Symbolism is like a big deal, right? I don't know, it's just really profound because it's like, oh, God speaks in situations. So it's almost like, how could you understand that, but like not understand like the symbolism thing? Like sometimes there's weird habits like that. Like that's, how do you understand one but not the other? But then obviously I've been there. I don't understand everything I know like all at once. Like I didn't understand it all today. Like I don't know, but I did. But like I don't know, line upon line, right? So from what I've noticed, love your enemies is usually a case of they weren't your enemy to begin with. Like there was just a misunderstanding. I think if everybody turned and loved their enemies, well, instant peace would be on the land, wouldn't it? And it's just like, if that is your goal, peace on the land, then the Jesus stuff makes sense. But are there other ways of getting there? Well, how many right actions are there? Like right now, I'm driving my car. Like how many right actions are go on with my driving? Well, just if I'm a courteous driver, I'm like looking around. I'm trying not to be in the way. I'm trying to, I'm trying not to bother people generally, and I'm also trying to obey the rules of traffic. Right. My actions are the like. There's not a lot of choice about that. My intention, like what I chose, was to go to Utah, and these are the actions that get me there. And then I have choice in each individual action on my way, and I can choose like literally anything. I, I could literally choose to stop at the next gas station and just walk away and disappear. Like you can choose anything, and like there's a certain exhilaration by choosing like the disappear way, right? Because you get to shirk all your responsibilities then. And like, what are your responsibilities, and like, what doesn't matter? And I think you just have to like decide with your individual situation of what's going on and like what is the most appropriate thing. And I think that's just between you and God, if you truly did not know another way, or if you did, or what was going on, if things were pointed out to you or whatever. Like kids, if you chose to have kids, do you have a certain obligation to make sure they are well taken care of and educated and brought up clean and happy and well-rounded and sense of humor, and like what kind of responsibility do you have, and what is your duty as a parent out of love? And I think there is a certain level of responsibility and duty in love, because sometimes love is a slog. Sometimes love is, doing the hard stuff that is not enjoyable. Okay. And in the end, it's worth it, of course. Like, you want to do it. Everybody does. But, like, I don't want to say everybody does. I find a fair amount of peace with doing the Jesus stuff though, as much as I can, line upon line. Like, I just try to do it better every time. And like, when I'm here on the road, you know, I've learned recently that driving in the left lane is like, when you're driving slow, you know, that's the wrong thing to do. I used to think if I'm going to turn left at some point along my drive, I'm just going to get into the left lane and then I'm ready. So I'm not going to get in anybody's way trying to like merge over, you know, I'm going to like get there like immediately, then I don't have to like be in the way. This was a wrong principle. Even though my heart was right, it was a wrong principle in action. Like, it was a wrong rule. Like, the heart was correct, but like how I applied it was wrong. But like, see, my action like with God though is impeccable. Like, I'm doing the right thing with God, even though on the outside it is the wrong thing. And somebody going around me, and I'm oblivious. I don't even notice if people are like going around me, giving me dirty looks or whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm just driving. Like, so like, they're probably like, what a jerk, you know? That person belongs not in God's kingdom. For sure that person's not going to be in God's kingdom. But there I was, happily just driving along, trying to be in God's kingdom, just doing the right thing, you know? But I've learned, and then I course corrected. You know, it's a repentance. Now I drive in the right lane because I realize, oh, the left lane's for passing. I didn't realize that as much until I did a lot of cross-country driving, and like my husband pointed it out. And then it made sense. And then it bugs the crap out of me when someone camps in the left lane. And I just wonder, are they like me? But like, how could they not know? But like, I didn't know. Are they just turning left soon? Like, I don't know. But on the freeway, you never turn left. So it's just like, I mean, unless they're going like 1,200 miles, like sometimes there is a left turn on the freeway. Are they preparing for that? Like, I don't know. Or do they just feel like the right lane was too crowded? They're like, oh, I'm going to get over. I'm going to be a little polite. Like, not crowd up that right lane. That's really crowded. Going to be like spacing it out a little. Why aren't these morons spacing it out a little, sitting in the left lane? Why are they all crowding into the right lane? That's uncomfortable. I don't like to be all jumbled together. I'm going to get into the left lane to like space it out a little, you know. And then the person behind him's like, go, crowd. And he's like, I'm trying. Like, why are you crowding me? You have this whole lane. Why do you need to like creep up on me and crowd me out? Maybe they're thinking that, you know. We always wonder what they think when they're just sitting there by the semi-truck or the Penske. They're just sitting there right next to it, just like going slow as a can of tomatoes. They're just going just slow. They're just like, why are you going so slow? Like, why are you passing this truck so slow? Like, don't you know that's uncomfortable? Like, that feels so uncomfortable to just be so slow right next to somebody going this fast. Like, do you not have any kind of spatial understanding, spatial awareness? Like, do you not realize how fast we're going? Like, we really don't want to be sitting right next to each other for long periods of time. Like, as quick as possible. We pass as quick as possible. Can we just not sit next to each other? I did understand that. Like, I definitely do not like to sit next to somebody, but I would camp in the left lane, but like staggered, you know, away from people. But I'm not like creeping next to a Penske, but like staggered. Like, if I had to turn left in 1,200 miles and I knew it, I probably would get into the left lane just to be ready, you know. Well, I'm going to be here anyway. I mean, just driving, just going straight. Who cares? I don't really like to pass people. I'm kind of a slow driver anyway, so it's just, I am that jerk. But I realized it. Well, somebody pointed it out, and then I like noticed, oh, the left lane's for passing. That makes so much more sense, the flow of traffic. It's like I understood more about, and it's reasonable, you know, you can reason it out, why it would be make more sense. So I think that's how it is in God's laws. Like, it should make more sense. I don't think you should get to a point of saying like, well, it's just something we can't know. It seems like everything should be able to be reasoned, right? As above, so below. Are we not formed in the image of God? I think we should be able to reason things. And I think it's okay to use reason. And I think it's okay to get a wrong reason sometimes. I think it's okay to like make mistakes. We're trying. Like, Like when I'm hanging out in the left lane, like God knows my heart. Even if I'm making mistakes, I'm like reasoning wrong or whatever, like, is that an incorrect heart? I'm trying to get the correct heart, it's just love. But how do you love someone who's hating you? And that's, I don't know. When you have to make a decision, like, how do you love all your neighbors simultaneously? Because it can't be about pleasing people, because you can please some of the people all the time and all of the people some of the time, but you can never please all of the people all the time, right? I think that's a true principle. So loving someone can't mean pleasing them. Loving someone, I think, has to do with what you have in best interest in heart, and you're trying to navigate the situation keeping everyone's best interest in mind, and just trying to like act impeccably, try to act in love, actually try to act in truth, because you can't know what someone's best interests are. So if you're deceiving in any way, like, it's almost like you're taking upon yourself to know the situation better than them, and so you're just trying to like influence the situation to go any direction deceptively is incorrect, because you should understand that you are not the one true know of everything. Any kind of deception indicates that you think you know more about the situation than somebody else. So to be nuanced, closed, nuanced, it, even against your kids, it makes it's deceptive. It's like you know more about the situation and you're not giving them a chance to understand it for themselves, or anybody. Like, there's a lot of hard decisions, aren't there? Like, ugh. But I think that at least we can agree in the adult realm, being openly nuanced makes sense, because everybody's nuanced in what they believe. Literally, I think I heard once that there are as many different versions of God as there are people on the planet. And I was like, well, that's a true principle, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, that is true. Everybody does have their own situation with God, specifically. And wow, so everybody is slightly nuanced. And I think just being open about your nuance and like just being open about what you think, actually, that instead of trying to uphold that facade, it frees up a lot of energy. And so then that bears out that the theory that my yoke is easy, my burden is light, that like gives you little evidence. You're like, okay, well, Jesus was onto something. Like, most of what Jesus said makes sense. It makes logical sense. It makes sense to do. It makes reasonable sense. So it's like, makes sense to follow. And it's like, well, how much of it was put in politically, though? We do know things were inserted in the Bible politically. How do we know that love your enemies wasn't inserted in the Bible politically, so that way, if the Christians ever did understand what was going on, they'd be so like enraged with righteous indignation? Like Jesus said, he's next, like he came in this time like a lamb. Next time he's coming in with a sword. Like, he's like, he's not going to be gentle next time. This time I'm here to teach. Next time it's not going to be like this, And so I don't know. Ugh. And what does that mean? What does that even mean? What's going to happen? There's so many things that it's like, oh, this is going to happen in the last days and this. And how do you piece it all together? I mean, it can be pieced together. I've put pieces together, but I'm just saying, like, would one go about doing this? And I think just like doing these little proofs with yourself of like, okay, well, this made logical sense to do, and that was way better. And like, yeah, the shave your head situation was a logically better situation to just like not worry quite so much about the outward facade, and doing it with intention, though, because if I had just shaved my head and then been really embarrassed and then continue just be embarrassed and just like shamefully grew my hair out and then just had it grown out for the rest of my life, like, I wouldn't have learned the lessons as I learned when I intentionally made myself be ugly, embrace ugliness, be ugly, accept it, accept myself, love myself, heal from all those wounds of childhood, of all the, can you believe she's wearing something like that when she looks like that? Can you believe anybody would dare to look like that in public or whatever? Like all this gossip I was hearing around me going, and like all the magazines, all the women who like are so obsessed. Like it's really important to like look your best, and it's really important to like put on your face, and it's really important. Like, why is it so important? And so it became important to me because it's important to everybody else. And like letting go of a lot of that was just so freeing. And it freed me up in other ways too, to understand the facade of mannerisms, even the facade of like the masking, the facade of morals, the facade of social norms, what are we doing here? And then it's like it breaks down reality, and so you just ask those basement bottom level questions. So yes, I think seeking, like just looking for this stuff is what sparks you onto paths, because it's what you're looking for, isn't it? So like what chooses your path? Well, it's what you're looking for. You're looking for truth and light and knowledge. I mean, eventually you'll get there. It's a journey. Who knows how long your soul's been on it? Who knows how long you'll need to complete it? And who knows if it'll ever be complete? But we're just learning more about ourselves as we go, aren't we? If it is an eternal journey, and it somewhat seems like it is, which could be a psychological trick, chemicals in the brain, or it could be that somehow that conscious experience is what is influencing the brain to produce those chemicals. You know, I have taken issue with that quite a bit, of like, well, I have this because my brain produces the incorrect chemicals. Is that true? Or do your habits produce a brain that produces incorrect chemicals? You know, is it... I think the Jesus stuff would point more at the situation of our habits create the brain that creates the chemicals. But I don't know. Could we have a defective body? Like, could we have something actually different because of our genetics and our biology? Well, I'd say yes, because like, is it really your faith that maybe you were born a certain way? You know, maybe it is. Maybe it really is consciousness holding it all together. And if it is consciousness holding it all together, maybe there are consciousness rules that can be reasoned, because maybe consciousness has to do with reasons. And like, there's a reason for everything if you think about it. But what's the reason for the sun to shine? Science is all about finding reasons, and everything is about finding reasons. We always want to know the reasons. But it seems like there's a reason for everything, so there must be a reason for God. And I think that that circle thing, oh my gosh, that was so good. This guy wrote a book on like what does he call it? Meta something. Metaphysics? No, he calls it like something. He makes a case for why existence. And it's like, has to do with circles and frequencies. And then when he was like, oh, in a circle, and like, it's frequencies, and it's like interference patterns, like, oh my gosh. What? It's so cool. It's so cool. So like, I don't know. Go think about that guy. It's Morg official. Look at his one on the circle thing. That's like, oh my gosh, that's cool. It's that circles of life, no, the flower of life situation, like the 7 circles, and then like it expands. Was it 19 next? So good. Are they always prime? Is the numbers prime? What's the next one? I don't know if it was 37. That was a good video. That was really cool. Like, he's onto some cool stuff. Really cool stuff. But you always have to wonder, like, is it true, though? Some of that stuff. And they always come up with new names for things. Like, it's the soul, but we call it the zeta. How do you... What? Like, why don't you just call it the soul, though? Like, why do you need a new name? Is it a new thing, a new understanding? Maybe. Okay. I don't know. It just might make more sense, though, to just evolve the definition. Just keep soul, but evolve the definition. But is that like the nuance then? You know, that it just introduces a new level of nuance to the word soul. And maybe soul is already nuanced now. There's so many nuanced definitions for soul. Like, soul means the combined of the body and spirit is the soul. Soul is this, the soul is that. So it's like, I used to think the soul is just the consciousness. That's what I just called the soul, the consciousness part. There's like the body and the soul. Well, the spirit. Well, and then that's the consciousness part. People just use it intertwined. That's what I used to think. Anyway, maybe we do need a new name because this one's all used up. Maybe that's why we're not supposed to speak the name of God. I've thought that a while. He did, with this guy, he just did a thing on like, the reason you can't speak the name of God is because it's not like a speakable name. And I think that makes sense. When you think about God as the God of situations, like he's like God speaks in situations, God speaks in symbols, and then it would make sense that you can't speak. That God's name isn't a spoken thing. It's not something. It's not a word. That would make sense. That makes logical, reasonable sense. You know, my way makes some reasonable sense too, but this way makes like even more reasonable sense. Even more, it like deepens the understanding of like many paths, so it makes like good reasonable sense. Epiniphic reasonable sense. What would be that? What would be the thing on that? Epiniphic. I don't know. It makes really good reasonable sense. Anyway, that's it.